The bright lights of the massive alien ship's meeting chamber made Tom Reed squint. As Earth's leading diplomat for first contact, he had prepared for this moment his entire career. The chamber stretched high above him, its walls covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an inner light. His small team of 4 stood beside him, their simple black uniforms a stark contrast to the colorful, flowing robes of the alien council members. "These are your greatest achievements." The tall, blue-skinned alien named High Commander Base spoke with clear disappointment. He held up Reed's tablet computer, turning it over as if examining a child's toy. "Your most advanced technology is centuries behind even our most basic equipment." Reed kept his face neutral, though his stomach tightened. Something felt wrong about this meeting. The aliens had seemed friendly at first, inviting Earth's representatives to their ship for diplomatic talks. But now, their tone had changed. "We may not have faster-than-light travel or energy weapons," Reed said carefully, "but humanity has other strengths. We're problem solvers. Adaptable. Adaptable." Another alien counselor laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "You haven't even unified your planet. You still fight wars with projectile weapons." Reed glanced at his team. Engineer Jack Miller stood rigid, his hands clenched behind his back. Security Officer Lisa Westsize darted between the exits, clearly sensing the same danger he did. The 2 junior diplomats, Bill Thompson and Mary Davis, looked increasingly nervous. "Perhaps," High Commander Base said, rising from his seat, "we should show you true power, true civilization." He pressed a glowing symbol on his chair's arm. Instantly, armed guards flooded the chamber, their advanced weapons pointed at the human delegation. "What is this?" Reed demanded, stepping forward. "We came in peace. And you will serve as an example in peace," Base replied. "Your species needs to understand its place in the galaxy. Primitive races must be guided, or controlled." The guards moved in. Reed's team was quickly surrounded, their personal devices and communications equipment stripped away. But strangely, the aliens left their clothing and personal items untouched. "These trinkets." Base laughed when one guard questioned the humans' watches and belts. "Let them keep their primitive decorations. They're harmless, like everything else about their species." Reed felt the cold metal of restraints around his wrists, but stayed calm. He noticed how the aliens dismissed their personal belongings as worthless. His mind was already racing, cataloging everything they still had. A belt with a metal buckle, shoelaces, a simple pen in his pocket, his reading glasses, even the watch on his wrist. To the aliens, they were primitive tools, not worth confiscating. As they were led away to the prison section of the ship, Reed caught Miller's eye. The engineer gave him the slightest nod. They both understood something the aliens didn't. Humans had spent their entire history turning simple objects into tools of survival. "You will be held here until we decide how best to proceed with Earth," Base announced as they were locked in separate cells. "Consider it an honor. You'll be the first to witness how we enlighten primitive species." Reed sat on the hard bench in his cell, watching the energy field shimmer across the entrance. He could hear the guards laughing outside, mocking their simple prisoners. But Reed allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed technological advancement meant the same thing as intelligence and adaptability. They would learn, very soon, why humans had survived countless disasters on Earth, why they had gone from stone tools to spaceflight in a mere blink of cosmic time, why assuming humans were harmless was the last mistake many of their enemies had made. Tom Reed took off his glasses and held them up to the bright cell lights, watching how the lens focused the beam. The first step to proving human ingenuity was about to begin. 3 days in the cell had taught Tom Reed everything he needed to know about their captors. The aliens were creatures of habit, precise in their schedules, but limited in their imagination. Every 6 hours, they'd brought food. Every 12 hours, they changed guards. And every single time they passed his cell, they looked at him with the same dismissive amusement. Reed sat cross-legged on his cell floor, spreading out his primitive possessions like pieces on a chessboard. The leather belt with its metal buckle, his shoelaces carefully removed while the guards watched and laughed. The plastic pen they'd forgotten to take, his watch still ticking steadily, even the small bottle of hand sanitizer they'd allowed him to keep, thinking it was just for cleanliness. Still playing with your trinkets, Earth creature. The guard's voice carried that familiar tone of mockery. This one, with green-tinted scales, seemed especially fond of taunting the humans. Reed ignored him, focusing instead on listening to the faint sounds coming through the ship's walls. The hum of engines, the slight vibration when waste was flushed from the systems, the rhythmic clicking of the air filtration system. Each sound told him something about the ship's design. In the cell to his right, he could hear Jack Miller tapping quietly on the wall. 3 taps, pause, 2 taps, pause, 4 taps. A simple code they'd developed over the past days. Miller had discovered that the ship's power systems ran in predictable cycles. Useful information. From the left cell, Lisa West had spent hours watching the guards' patrol patterns. Her military training showed in how systematically she gathered intelligence, marking time by counting her own breaths. The aliens had separated them, thinking it would weaken them. Instead, it had given each prisoner a different angle to study their captors. Reed picked up his pen, appearing to doodle on his palm. The guard snickered at this apparent sign of mental breakdown. But Reed was actually drawing a rough map of the ship's layout, based on what he'd seen during their brief transport and the intelligence gathered from his team's coded taps. "Your species is so entertaining," the guard said, watching Reed carefully unravel a thread from his shirt sleeve. Like primitive pets playing with string. Reed allowed himself a small smile. The aliens' greatest weakness was now clear. They couldn't distinguish between aimless activity and purposeful preparation. To them, a human without advanced technology was harmless. They didn't understand that humans had spent thousands of years turning simple objects into tools of survival. The hand sanitizer was mostly alcohol. The pen's spring could be repurposed. The watch's inner workings contained small but useful metal parts. His glasses lens could focus light into a cutting beam. Even the threads from his clothing could become a crude but effective garrote wire when combined with the pen's rigid barrel. Through the wall, Miller tapped out a new message. He had discovered a weakness in the cell's energy field, a fluctuation that occurred during power cycles. West replied with her own code, confirming she'd mapped the guard rotation gaps. Reed began sorting his trinkets with new purpose. The metal belt buckle could short-circuit exposed wiring. His shoelaces, when properly braided, could support his weight. Each item had multiple uses, and combined, they formed an arsenal that sat in plain sight. "Almost time for sleep cycle," the guard announced, still amused by his seemingly broken prisoner playing with ordinary objects. Reed nodded politely, watching the guard walk away. In the relative darkness of sleep cycle, he would begin the real work. These simple objects would soon become the keys to their freedom, transformed by the one thing the aliens didn't understand: human ingenuity. As the lights dimmed, Reed could almost pity their captors. They had made the same mistake that countless others had made throughout human history. They had confused technological advancement with adaptability, and simple tools with harmless objects. Tomorrow, they would learn why humans had survived every catastrophe their world had thrown at them. The lesson would begin with a bent wire, a focused beam of light, and the determination that had taken humanity from stone tools to the stars. The sleep cycle's dim lighting worked in Reed's favor. He sat close to his cell's energy barrier, glasses held carefully in his hands. The guard was due to pass in exactly 47 seconds, based on the patterns they'd observed over the past days. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Right on schedule. Reed waited until they faded, then positioned his glasses lens at precisely the right angle. The overhead light, though dim, provided enough power. He tested this dozens of times in the past hours, marking the exact position needed. The focused beam hit the exposed power conduit just above the energy barrier. A simple design flaw. The aliens never expected anyone to attack their technology with a piece of bent glass. The beam heated the metal slowly, steadily. Reed's arms ached from holding the position, but he didn't move. 3 cells down, he heard Miller begin to sing loudly, their agreed-upon signal that a guard was approaching from the other direction. Reed quickly pulled his glasses back, pretending to clean them. The guard passed, muttering something about noisy primitives. As soon as the guard was gone, Reed returned to his work. The metal in the conduit had cooled, but not completely. Each time, it took less effort to reach the critical temperature. Physics was physics, no matter how advanced the technology. Finally, after nearly an hour, he heard it. A soft, sizzling sound. The energy barrier flickered once, twice. Reed grabbed his carefully prepared tools. The belt wrapped around his hand with the buckle outward, the pen spring straightened into a picking tool, and the braided shoeless garrote hidden up his sleeve. The barrier sputtered and then died. Reed moved silently into the corridor, his socked feet making no sound on the metal floor. The ship's hum covered his movement as he crept to the control panel between the cells. Here, his watch would prove its worth. He'd removed the tiny gears, creating precise tools for manipulating the alien technology's access ports. The panel resisted for only moments before clicking open. Inside, the wiring was complex but logical. Reed smiled. Advanced technology still needed physical connections to work. He used his belt buckle to bridge 2 connection points, creating a power surge. Warning lights flashed silently, but it was too late. The energy barriers on Miller's and West's cells flickered and died. "Took you long enough," West whispered as she slipped out of her cell. Her military training showed in how smoothly she moved. She'd already fashioned a weapon from her own belt, the buckle now a weighted end of a makeshift flail. Miller emerged last, carrying what looked like a bundle of torn cloth. Reed knew better. The engineer had been collecting and storing anything that might be useful. "Guards change in 4 minutes," Miller whispered. "The power fluctuation will be reported in 2. Then we have 3 minutes to reach the maintenance shaft," Reed replied, pointing to a section of wall they'd identified through careful observation. "West." She nodded, moving to the panel that concealed the shaft entrance. While Reed had focused on power systems, West had memorized the ship's access points. The panel opened with a soft hiss under her expert touch. They heard shouting from the security station. Their escape had been noticed. Reed gestured his team into the shaft. Just before following them, he left a small surprise. His hand sanitizer bottle, modified with threads from his clothing to create a wick, placed near exposed wiring. The first guard rounded the corner just as Reed pulled the shaft door closed. He heard confused voices, then a satisfying whoosh as the alcohol ignited, followed by chaos. "They'll seal this section," Miller warned as they crawled through the narrow space. "Let them," West replied. "More sealed doors mean fewer guards to deal with." Reed led them forward, counting steps to their next target, the ship's secondary control room. Their captors had thought them harmless, had dismissed their primitive tools and simple belongings. Now they would learn what humans did best, turning disadvantage into opportunity, everyday items into weapons, and impossible situations into victory. Behind them, alarms began to sound. The real fight was about to begin, and Reed had a pocket full of ordinary objects ready to become extraordinary weapons. The maintenance shaft opened into a dimly lit storage room. Reed checked his watch. They had exactly 4 minutes before the next security sweep. The room smelled of cleaning supplies and machine oil, making his eyes water. But where the aliens saw a simple storage space, Reed saw an arsenal waiting to be created. "Miller, check those containers," Reed whispered, pointing to a row of bottles with alien writing. "West, guard the door." West nodded, taking position with her makeshift belt flail ready. Her time in security had taught her how to handle any weapon, even one made from clothing accessories. She pressed her ear to the door, listening for approaching guards. Miller moved quickly among the cleaning supplies, his engineer's mind analyzing each chemical label using the basic alien language they'd learned. "This is perfect," he whispered, holding up 2 bottles. "Basic ammonia in one, bleach compound in the other. Mix them together. And we have chlorine gas." Reed finished. "Grab anything else useful." Their improvised weapons collection grew quickly. Miller found aluminum powder used for cleaning metal surfaces, highly explosive when handled correctly. West discovered rolls of thin metal wire meant for binding packages. Reed gathered several spray bottles, seeing them not as cleaners but as potential chemical dispersal units. 2 minutes, West warned. They worked faster. Miller tore strips from his shirt, creating wicks and fuses. Reed modified the spray bottles, adjusting their nozzles for distance. West braided the metal wire into stronger cords, creating snares and garrotes. "Listen," Reed said, gathering his team close. "We're not just escaping anymore. We need to show them why underestimating humans is a mistake." He laid out their new weapons. "Everything here can be used 2 or 3 different ways. Remember your basic chemistry." Miller grinned, holding up a mixture he created. "Pressure plus heat equals boom." They think we're too primitive to understand their technology, but they forgot about simple science. West had fashioned a sling from her belt and some wire. "Range weapons ready. Those guards won't expect projectiles from primitives like us." A sound in the corridor made them freeze. Heavy footsteps approached. A guard patrol. They'd pressed against the walls, weapons ready. Reed held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. The door slid open. A guard stepped in, weapon raised. He had time for one surprised look before West's belt sling launched a metal container at his head. The guard dropped without a sound. "Armor's weak at the neck joint," West observed, pulling the guard inside. "They rely too much on their energy shields." Miller was already stripping useful parts from the guard's weapon. "Power cells compatible with the ship's systems. We can use it to overload door controls." Reed checked the corridor. Moving teams of 4 guards each. They're searching systematically. He smiled. "Let them come. Each deck has storage rooms like this one. We'll set up surprises all the way to the command center." They worked quickly, preparing their next moves. Miller rigged simple trip wires across corridor junctions, connected to his chemical mixtures. West set up throwing positions, marking ranges for her improvised sling. Reed prepared smoke bombs using cleaning powders and oxidizers. "Remember," Reed said as they finished, "we're not just fighting our way out. We're teaching them a lesson about human ingenuity. Every primitive tool, every simple chemical reaction, every basic trap, it's all part of the demonstration." The ship's intercom crackled. High Commander Base's voice echoed through the corridors. "Attention, crew. The primitive humans have somehow escaped containment. They are unarmed and harmless. Capture them alive." West checked her garrowed wire and smiled. "Unarmed and harmless. Right." Miller hefted his bag of chemical weapons. "Should we show them how harmless basic chemistry can be?" Reed led them to the door, their improvised arsenal ready. Time to teach the galaxy's most advanced species a lesson about underestimating humans. After all, he held up a simple spray bottle filled with his latest chemical mixture. Anything can become a weapon in human hands. Alarms blared through the ship. The hunt was on. But the hunters didn't realize they were about to become the hunted. Chaos spread through the alien ship like wildfire. Smoke poured from corridors where Reed's team had struck. Guards ran in confusion, their advanced weapons useless against enemies who attacked from shadows with primitive but deadly tools. "Status report," Commander Base demanded from the bridge. His screen showed multiple security breaches, environmental warnings, and system failures. "How are 3 unarmed primitives causing this much damage?" An explosion rocked the lower deck. In a maintenance corridor, Miller watched with satisfaction as his latest chemical mixture did its work. "Simple pressure bomb," he explained to Reed. "Mixed cleaning powder with metal shavings. Add heat." He gestured at the destroyed security door. "Save the chemistry lesson. West warned, keeping watch. More guards coming. They're using heat sensors now. Reed pulled out his final surprise. Packets of hand warmers they'd found in the storage room. Throw these down the side corridors. Give them some false readings. The aliens had never seen such simple thermal decoys. Their sensors, designed to detect advanced technology, were confused by basic chemical reactions creating heat. Guard teams split up, chasing ghost readings through smoke-filled hallways. "Bridge is 2 levels up," Reed said, checking his crude map drawn with pen on his arm. "But first, we need to visit environmental control." Miller, the engineer, held up a spray bottle filled with a dark mixture, cleaned out their entire chemical storage. "One spritz of this in their air processors will make them very cooperative." They moved carefully through the ship, using their knowledge of patrol patterns. West's simple traps, tripwires made from braided metal strips, caught several guards by surprise. Reed's smoke bombs, created from cleaning supplies, covered their movements. "Warning," the ship's computer announced. "Environmental hazards detected in multiple sectors. Security systems compromised. Backup power failing." Commander Bass slammed his fist on his control panel. "Impossible. They have no weapons, no technology." "Sir," a junior officer reported, "they're using our own cleaning supplies against us. Chemical weapons improvised from maintenance materials. Even their clothing has become." Another explosion cut him off. This one was smaller, more controlled. In the environmental control room, Miller adjusted the air mixture while Reed and West guarded the doors. "Primitive species shouldn't understand these systems," a captured alien technician protested as Miller worked. "We understand basic air pressure just fine," Miller replied, connecting his makeshift chemical dispenser to the air system. "Humans figured out gas weapons centuries ago. Simple science." Reed checked their supplies. They had enough materials for one final push. "West, how's our exit route?" She gestured to her crude map, drawn using pen ink mixed with cleaning fluid to make it glow under emergency lights. "Escape pods here, but the bridge is more important now. They need to understand." "Attention all crew," Commander Bass's voice echoed through the ship again. "Fall back to the bridge. Protect the command center at all costs." How can they be doing this? They're using cleaning supplies and scraps. Reed gathered his team. "Ready for the final lesson? Show them what humans do best." West held up her last few chemical bombs. "Turn anything into a weapon. Adapt and overcome," Miller added, patting his bag of improvised tools. They moved toward the bridge, past corridors filled with smoke from their chemical weapons. Guards they encountered were quickly disabled by West's throwing weapons or tangled in tripwires. The few who tried to fight discovered why humans had survived countless wars. They never stopped finding new ways to win. The bridge doors loomed ahead, sealed with the ship's most advanced security. Commander Bass watched on his screens as the 3 humans approached. Surely they couldn't breach this final defense. These were primitives with cleaning supplies, not warriors with. Reed pulled out his glasses one last time, the lenses now coated with reflective material stripped from emergency signs. Time to show them how primitives hack a door. He aimed the focused light beam at the door's power coupling. "Everyone ready? Let's teach them why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The door's security system began to spark and fail. Inside, Commander Bass finally understood his mistake. He had given his prisoners everything they needed, by assuming nothing they had could be dangerous. The bridge doors slid open with a hiss of failing hydraulics. Smoke from Reed's last chemical mixture poured through the gap, making the alien crew's eyes water. Commander Bass stood at his command post, watching in disbelief as 3 humans, armed with nothing but improvised weapons, stepped onto his bridge. "Impossible," Bass whispered, staring at their primitive arsenal. "Our sensors show no advanced technology. No energy weapons. No." "That's the point you still don't understand," Reed said, holding up a spray bottle filled with his latest chemical mixture. "Humans don't need advanced technology to be dangerous. We just need." He gestured at their makeshift weapons. Imagination. West moved quickly, securing the bridge crew with metal strips torn from corridor panels. Miller went straight to the communications console, his knowledge of basic engineering principles making alien technology surprisingly easy to understand. Broadcasting now, Miller announced, fingers dancing across the alien controls. Simple radio waves. Even your most primitive colonies will receive this. Reed stepped up to the command platform, facing the ship's communication array. The message would go to every member of the Galactic Council. This is Thomas Reed, Earth's diplomatic representative. Your council member, Commander Base, took us prisoner. He thought humans were harmless because we lacked advanced technology. He held up their improvised weapons one by one. These are cleaning supplies, turned into chemical weapons. Pieces of clothing, turned into ropes and garrotes. Simple glass lenses, used to breach your most advanced security systems. Basic items that any species would consider harmless. West brought up images on the main screen, showing the damage they'd caused. Corridors filled with smoke from simple chemical reactions. Guards trapped by tripwires made from torn clothing. Security systems shorted out by focused light from ordinary glasses. Your mistake, Reed continued, was thinking that technology equals advancement. Humans survived on Earth because we learned to use everything around us. We turned sticks into spears, rocks into tools, and chemistry into weapons. We never stopped adapting. Miller added his own footage to the broadcast. Simple explanations of how they'd created their weapons. Basic chemistry, he explained to the galaxy. Pressure, heat, and simple reactions. The kind of science any species learns before reaching space. Commander Base watched in growing horror as his ship's logs revealed their journey. Every deck, every corridor showed how 3 humans had systematically taken control using nothing but improvised tools and basic science. This is why humans survived countless disasters on Earth, Reed explained. Why we went from stone tools to spaceflight faster than any species you've encountered. We don't just use technology. We understand the basic principles behind it. Principles that work anywhere, with anything. West stepped forward, still holding her belt-turned weapon. You thought we were primitive because we still fight wars with simple weapons. But that's what makes us dangerous. We never forgot our roots. Never lost the ability to turn anything into a tool of survival. So here's our message to the Galactic Council, Reed said, his voice firm. Humanity is ready to join your civilization. Ready to learn and share knowledge. But remember this demonstration. Remember how 3 humans armed with cleaning supplies took control of your most advanced ship. Miller broadcast the final images, their cell doors opened by focused light, their weapons made from everyday items, their traps created from simple materials. Everything can be a weapon, he said. Everything can be a tool. That's what makes us human. The bridge crew watched in silence as their greatest technological achievements were matched by human ingenuity and simple science. On screens across the galaxy, advanced civilizations learned a crucial lesson. True advancement isn't just about technology. It's about understanding the basic principles that make technology work. We'll await the Council's response, Reed concluded. But remember, humans are never truly unarmed. Everything around us. He picked up a simple pen, showing how they'd turned its parts into lockpicks and weapons. Is just a tool waiting to be used. The broadcast ended, but its message was clear. Humanity had proven itself not through advanced technology, but through the one thing no species could match, their ability to turn anything into a means of survival. 1 month after the incident on Commander Base's ship, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The usual displays of advanced technology were absent. Instead, simple items sat on pedestals. A pen, a pair of glasses, some cleaning supplies, and strips of cloth. Each item had a plaque describing how 3 humans had used it to capture an advanced alien vessel. Reed stood before the council again, this time as an honored speaker rather than a prisoner. The same aliens who had dismissed humans as primitives now watched him with cautious respect. Commander Base had been demoted, his career a casualty of underestimating human ingenuity. The incident on the diplomatic vessel has led to significant changes in our protocols, the council leader announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. All species will now be evaluated not just on their technological advancement, but on their problem-solving abilities and adaptability. Miller and West sat in the audience, still carrying their improvised tools out of habit. Other alien diplomats kept a careful distance, eyeing even their simplest possessions with new wariness. The story of how they had turned everyday objects into weapons had spread across the galaxy, becoming both a warning and a legend. Furthermore, the council leader continued, "We have created new guidelines for assessing potentially dangerous species. The human ability to weaponize ordinary objects has opened our eyes to a different kind of advancement." Reed stepped forward to address the council. "Humans don't just use technology," he explained, picking up a simple pen from the display. "We understand the basic principles behind it. This pen isn't just a writing tool. It's spare parts, a weapon, or a tool, depending on our needs." The alien diplomats shifted uncomfortably as Reed demonstrated how quickly the pen could be transformed into a lockpick. Even after a month, they struggled to look at ordinary objects the same way. "Your species presents a unique challenge," another council member admitted. "Our security systems are designed to detect advanced weapons, not improvised tools. How do we defend against a species that can turn cleaning supplies into chemical weapons?" "You don't," West answered from her seat, causing several aliens to jump. "You accept that humans will always find a way to survive, and you work with us instead of against us." The council chambers buzzed with discussion. On screens around the room, footage played from their escape, simple chemistry creating smoke screens, basic physics turning glasses into cutting tools, ordinary items becoming extraordinary weapons. "We have much to learn from each other," Reed said, returning the pen to its display. "Humans can benefit from your advanced technology, and you can learn from our adaptability. But first, you need to understand something about us." He gestured to the displayed items. "Everything you see here is both a tool and a potential weapon. Not because humans are inherently violent, but because we're survivors. We see possibilities where others see limitations." The council leader nodded slowly. "A new protocol will be established. All species must be treated with respect, regardless of their technological level. And humans," she paused, looking at the simple items that had caused so much chaos. "Humans must be approached with particular caution." Miller grinned from his seat, absently turning a piece of wire into a small tool. Nearby aliens watched nervously as his fingers worked, never sure what ordinary item might become something more dangerous. "We accept these terms," Reed said formally. "Humanity looks forward to joining the galactic community. We have much to offer. Our creativity, our adaptability, and our unique way of seeing the world." As the council session ended, aliens filed out carefully, giving the humans a wide berth. They had learned an important lesson. True advancement wasn't just about technology. It was about understanding, adaptability, and the ability to see beyond the obvious. Reed collected his team, ready to return to Earth with their new status in the galaxy secured. As they walked out, he noticed how every alien they passed quickly checked what ordinary items the humans were carrying. They had taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Never imprison a species that can turn anything into a weapon. Never underestimate those who see possibilities in the ordinary. And most importantly, never assume that primitive means harmless. Because humans, armed with nothing but ingenuity, had proven themselves the most dangerous species in the galaxy.